we've analyzed the teams that we think have a real chance of winning the World Cup. But now let's have a look at some of the dark horses, some of the teams that maybe won't necessarily win it, but can really challenge and go far in the competition, we think, right? Um, Jermaine, do you want to start off with a couple of your thoughts on who might be a dark horse in this tournament?
Okay. For me, it's difficult because okay, the first one I'm going to go with is Norway, and I'm going to say Norway because, of course, you've got the striker, you've got Erling Haaland, but you also have some young, talented forwards. You know, you've got Antonio Nusa, you've got Oscar Bob, you've got Odegaard, who's also there in the midfield. You've got Sander Berger. You've got the defense. I'm not sold. Chris Ayer, who's not bad, but I think their attack, they have a lot in their attack. They have a lot of different dimensions they can utilize as well. So I think they're going to be a threat in the tournament. Let me say the second one, or should I leave the second one?
Yeah. Just before you do, I mean, you got obviously you mentioned the main man's Haaland, right? And
yeah,
do you think he's got enough around him to really dominate a tournament like this? Do you think he can like score a bunch of goals basically?
I think definitely against team. If a team wants to sit back against Norway, I think Norway have enough. They have more than enough to create many chances in their game to feed Haaland, to feed Oscar Bob, to feed Nusa. I think me personally, I think they have enough.
Yeah,
And then
they're
off
a
the
bit
bench,
interesting.
they've got some good players as well. They got Hauger. So yeah, I think they can. I think they can do some damage in the tournament.
They've played Soloff a lot on the right in a lot of their games.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think they're like forcing him in a bit. Like it's not necessary in my opinion.
He's not a bad player, but I think the issue there is maybe they're trying to create from one side, and I think they should keep the option. I think they should keep Nusa on the left, keep Oscar Bob on the right, and they should keep it a little bit expansive, and it makes it more dangerous for other. Like it gives Haaland and Odegaard more space to operate in the middle. So I think if the balance is right and the coach can get it right, then I think they have a good chance of doing well in the tournament.
They do have a tough group. They're in with France and Senegal. Yeah, that's the other team. Is it? I cannot remember. Iran? I can't remember. But
Iraq. It's
yeah.
Iraq.
Oh, it's Iraq. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, you would expect Iraq to lose all the games. Because that's really tough for them. But yeah, I see that shout. Who would be your second choice then?
My second dark horse is probably a team that a lot of people weren't considering. Turkey. I really like Turkey's team. I think they have experienced players in all positions. The only problem I see with Turkey is for a while since Burak Yilmaz has, I think he's retired, they haven't really had a striker. And so that's the one, they haven't really had the focal point in their team. So they do create a lot. I think they're very good attacking. They're a very dangerous team, but they've been missing, even in I think it was the Euros or the World Cup, the last tournament that they played in, they were very good, but you can see they're missing a focal point, and for me, that's the main thing that's holding them back. But I think they're a threat against most teams as well.
Yeah, I see that. They do have Demiral in defense as well, so they have like they have some good players spread across the pitch, but maybe
I
maybe
like their keeper, the one who left Trabzonspor to go to Galatasaray. I think he's a very good keeper.
Yeah.
Is it Kachik?
Kachier.
I like him as well. So yeah, I think they got Ferdy on the left, and then Zeki Celik on the right. He's not a bad player. This is a good, again, they can unleash Kenan Yildiz, they can unleash Arda Turan.
Oh, the tournament, oh, the
Actocoglu.
Gula, you mean?
Adagula. Adagula.
uh,
Sorry, I'm going back to the tens. But yeah,
yeah.
and then you've got Actocoglu, who's always, he's always an issue, always a thorn. So I think they can do something. They're my second dark horse.
All right. How about you, Charlie? Who are your choices? Who do you think could surprise people? Maybe.
Yeah, I want to start with, country close to my heart, Ghana, Because, listen,
I wasn't expecting that. I'm not gonna lie.
listen,
Go on, go on.
there might be a bit of, optimism, it might be a hopeful take, but, even, obviously, we don't have our best player, Kudus, there, but I've in the first warm up we had against Wales, I saw some glimpses, some decent things that I just feel like we're gonna be we're gonna be set up in a very solid way with Carlos Queiroz as our coach, very solid defensively. The Sanaya from Auxerre, he's probably gonna be our starting right back. I don't see much about him, but in that game I saw, okay, this is a decent player, physical, you know what I mean? Centre backs, they both look good in my opinion, both two. I think we can be very dangerous from set pieces this tournament, you know. Obviously the midfield that was playing was very bad. The Party and
Also,
Owusu. No, I'm not saying either of them are bad players. Just you can't play those two together in the two because they're kind of similar in terms in their skill sets because they're both kind of comfortable on the ball. Party obviously better or superior many in certain its ball playing and ball retention, things like that. But they're both very sluggish, very slow. So, but then when we brought on Urenchi, big difference, I think he's gonna be a key man for us in the tournament. He's had a great season at Northern. Many big clubs after him. I think this is a time for him to really secure that big move. I like him as a right back, but in midfield, I think he'll be key for us. But, with that being said, obviously we do have Semenyo, we do have Fatawu Isaku, but our key man is going to be Ernest Nyoma. I think, listen, if we can find a way to get to the quarterfinal, this guy has potential to be, young player of the tournament because he's a young phenom, man. I honestly think big clubs should be after him this summer because his price is gonna be at all-time low because he's just coming off of an ACL injury, So the more football he plays, the harder it's gonna be to sign him. So I think big clubs, especially teams like Liverpool, who are looking for, a fast, dynamic winger, he's a goal threat. They need to be onto him, but I think with a front three of, or front three / front four with guys like Fatawu, Semenyo, and Nyoma all there, they're going to be very difficult to, to keep them off of them, I think that will cause panic to a lot of defenses. So that, Ghana, wishful thinking, but they're my first
let's go, man.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, man. You sold it to me.
My second. This one, yeah. I'm actually gonna go with Colombia because it's in America, basically, it's close to home, and I just think they got a very well-rounded squad. They got top players. They got Luis Diaz. They got Daniel Munoz. James is still thereabouts in the squad. I think he'll be a lift to everyone there. And I just don't see any bad players in the starting 11, to be honest. And I just think they could be some sly ones, that could be an issue to any of the big teams. That have to come up against them. So yeah, man, I'm gonna go with them with Luis Diaz being their key man.
You brought up an interesting point. Do you think the factors in America? Do you think where it is will actually have an effect on who's successful in the tournament?
It always does. It always does. It always does. Always does.
Yeah.
So I think
I think
so. Yeah.
it's when it's in Mexico, it's going to be at altitude as well. So yeah, I don't know. That might favor certain teams as maybe like a South American team is used to it. Okay, interesting. I if I would mention a South American team, it probably would be Ecuador, just because when you've got Pacho, you've got Caicedo, just them two firstly, before I even go to the rest. You've got one of the best centre backs in the world, one of the best centre midfielders in the world, and their spine, in World Cup qualifying, they hardly conceded a goal. I think they started with a -3. They had a points deduction, and yet they were still, challenging at the top by the end. So they're one of those teams. I do worry a bit in terms of goals. And Valencia is still their main attacking player.
That's a throwback.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, yeah,
Valencia.
I think he's about 36, 37 at this point. So yeah, not sure there, but if you're solid in games and I think they can stay solid against every team. You're in every game, you know what I mean? So I think they could be interesting. Kendry Paez is someone who I'm not sure if he'll be a starter, but I think he's got the talent to.
Gonzalo Plata. Plata is going to
Plata,
do. We're going
yeah,
to see Plata do a job. We're going to see Plata do a job.
They've got some ability there, right? So I do think that they could be an interesting team. But my personal dark horses wouldn't be them. I'm gonna say it would be. There's two teams. It would be Ivory Coast and Senegal, right? Yeah, I'm sticking with Africa. I think Africa in general can have a very good tournament this time. Senegal, they've been so successful in recent years in AFCON. They robbed of their title, of course, this year. They just have, as well as having experience, they have great young players coming through. They have a really good range of different profiles in the squad. They can play in different ways if they want to. The kinds of guys who probably won't even be starting are like Pape Sarr from Spurs, maybe Lamine Kamara. And I mean, I personally probably would start them, but the fact that you can leave them out and still have a midfield of Pap Gay, Idrissa Gay, Habib Diarra, who are also really good players, that's a strong midfield. Then they've got Sadio Mane still there. Sure, he's not at his best anymore, but he can still contribute. But then you've got Iliman Ndiaye and Ismail Assar as options. Even Ibrahim Mbaye from PSG as like a bench option. Nicholas Jackson I really rate as a striker. The defense is solid. You've got got a good goalkeeper as well. So a team that's had that success, I think they'll have the confidence to go up against any team and think we can win this. I think they are the type of team. It wouldn't shock me if they got to like a semi-final, because again, I don't see any team blowing them away. I think they'll be in every game and they'll have that belief that they can genuinely challenge. And then Ivory Coast is a bit different because they have a bit of a younger team, and what impresses me and what excites me are players who are just coming through this year. But they showed signs of how good they can be at AFCON. Yan Diomande, a lot's being talked about him right now. He's being linked to a move to Liverpool or PSG for like £100 million. He had a great season in the Bundesliga for Leipzig. He's a huge talent. He's one of those guys you can hardly get the ball off him. He's a great dribbler, quick. He's good in the final third. He really is. I like his shooting ability as well. The more I've watched him. But then you've got Amad Diallo, who I think maybe is getting to the point where he's become underrated again. He had such a good season playing at right wing back, carrying United when Amrin was the manager. I would go as far as to say he kept United, away from a relegation battle. And he's the type of guy, if you let him flourish, maybe he didn't have full confidence at the end of the season. It happens, I think he's a top player. And they have some sneaky good players who I think people don't realize exactly how good they are. The first person I got to mention is Ula, who plays for Trabzonspor. I think that's the type of midfielder that can play for any team in the world. Like, genuinely,
Yeah.
I think
He's one of
he'd
my
be a
players to
great signing.
watch.
Yeah, honestly, I think he could play for a City or Liverpool, like at that level of team. He's a real. He reminds me in certain ways of Kante. I don't, that's a huge shout, of course. That's a huge comparison, but I really think he's got some special ball winning abilities, plus dribbling abilities. And he's quite a complete midfielder. The fact that they've been able to add certain players to their squad who, weren't declaring for Ivory Coast before. In the last 12 months, I think they've added Guela Due, who's a really good right back. I think he's another right back that could play for a top team. Bonnie from Inter, that's a big one. That's a really big one. They didn't have him at AFCON, and I think he's the exact type of striker you want to get the best out of a Diomande and an Ahmad. He can hold up the ball. He's a good finisher, good technically. And the type of midfielders they have, he's the type of guy, you can get pass the ball into him early and you got people running off him. And I think that makes them so much more dangerous on the counter attack, which they're going to need to be against the bigger teams. I think then also, I haven't even mentioned Diomande at the back, that centre back from Sporting. I think that their strength in depth can match some of the top European teams. That's what I genuinely think, that them and Senegal, honestly. So I don't think people should sleep on them. I wouldn't be surprised if either of those two teams got to a semi-final. That's what I would say. And I think this tournament as a whole is probably more balanced or it's more competitive than a lot of the previous World Cups. I just think a lot of smaller countries have grown and got to the point now where they can really challenge the big boys. I haven't mentioned Morocco. They've also been really successful in recent times, and they've got a very good starting 11 at least. Yeah, I'm excited about this World Cup because I think there's going to be some upsets. Well, what people call upsets, but I wouldn't even call them upsets. I think it wouldn't shock me if one of these teams, put it this way: Croatia got to a final in 2018, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Croatia's team then is better than Senegal's team now or Ivory Coast team now. I genuinely don't. Their best 11, if their managers pick the right 11, I know they had Luka Modric and stuff, but I think those teams have so many options, so many variable ways of playing that they can really go up against the best.